In this world, you will have trouble. But in your trouble, if you don't lose sight of the gospel, if you don't lose sight of why you're here, if you don't lose sight that the goal is for the gospel of Jesus Christ to move forward, even in your circumstance. You see, Paul understood something. It's bigger than me. I will rejoice. What's up, everybody? It's Jonathan Evans here, and listen, I am excited today because I get to share with you something that really just helped me, and it helped me escape a prison. Many of us are in prisons, whether it's a financial prison, a marital prison, a family prison, a drama prison, just something happening in your life. You really feel like you can't escape or get out of it, maybe wondering why you're in it, all of those different things. There is something that I was given looking at one of Paul's writings, the book of Philippians, that popped out to me. Philippians chapter 2, verse 17 and 18 has something in it, but at the end it says, I am glad and rejoice with all of you, so you too can be glad and rejoice with me. Okay? And so that's interesting. It says in Philippians 3:1, further, my brother and sister, rejoice in the Lord. It is not too much trouble for me to write these things to you, he says. And it says, I want to write them to you as a safeguard to you. Okay, so he says to rejoice. Philippians 4:4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. So I'm wondering if there's a word that you're hearing that I keep saying. Rejoice. Wait a minute. Hold on. Jonathan, you started this out talking about prisons, talking about all of those types of things, jail, hardships, the things that I'm dealing with in my life. And then you're saying the big scooping term that you got that helped you in your life is rejoice. Yeah, because this is Philippians. Paul's in prison. And he keeps talking about rejoicing. So that must be how you get out of a prison that you're still in. Have you ever thought about getting out of a prison that you're still in? You rejoice. Paul says in Philippians 1:18, I will rejoice. Rejoice. And again I say rejoice. Now, I know it should be deeper than that. Paul is cutting out a window in the jail so that you can see a little bit further than where you are. He wants you to rejoice always. In this book, he says, I do not regard myself as having taken hold of it yet. But one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind, pressing on to what lies ahead, of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. He's still talking about where he's going and what he's getting and what he's doing and who he's writing to. And he's telling the people to be humble, just like Jesus is humble. And he's telling the people to empty themselves like Jesus emptied themselves. He describes how Jesus took the form of a bondservant, being made in the likeness of man. And he's talking about all of these things to try to continue to encourage the people that he was writing to at the time. And he's doing it from a prison and scattered throughout the book. He keeps saying rejoice. With all of the things that he's saying in his prison. Man, he keeps saying rejoice. How do you do that? How are you in prison and have a prison break while still being in prison? How can you be in prison and have a praise? How can you have joy in a jail? Well, it's interesting because in Philippians 1:18, you see something. He says, I will rejoice. But let me take you back. The whole verse says this. Let me read it to you. What then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed. Watch this. And in this I rejoice. Okay. The question for Paul was not his circumstance. The question for Paul is, even in my circumstance, is the gospel moving forward. Even in what I'm going through, is the gospel of Jesus Christ proliferating. Even in my struggle, is the kingdom advancing. Oh, here he goes. He's not just seeing himself in a prison. He's seeing himself in a prison for the sake of the gospel. Okay. Even when your marriage is not exactly the way you want it, is the kingdom advancing. Even if the children or things aren't going the way you would have them go, or the children are you being the mother or father that the gospel of Jesus Christ is asking you to be? Even when that person doesn't deserve forgiveness and what they did for you has imprisoned you. Are you forgiving them like the gospel did you? Yeah. Even when the person won't take your advice and you know you're right, are you planting seeds of the gospel? Even when the money is funny, are you still operating in a gospel-centric mentality and communicating that God is my provider, even when it seems like I don't have enough? Paul's concern was not his position in the prison. Paul's concern was the fact that his position in the prison had purpose for the proliferation of the gospel. In this world, you will have trouble. But in your trouble, if you don't lose sight of the gospel, if you don't lose sight of why you're here, if you don't lose sight that the goal is for the gospel of Jesus Christ to move forward, even in your circumstance. You see, Paul understood something. It's bigger than me. I will rejoice. I will rejoice because I know that even though I'm going through this trouble may be for somebody else's good. Even though I'm going through this prison may be able to give somebody else a praise. Even though I'm in this jail, I may be able to give somebody else the joy of the gospel. It was bigger than him. And when it's bigger than you and you see the bigger picture, he says, I will rejoice. Now, I want you to see something else. That's number one. Number one is it's bigger than you. But number two, he says, I will rejoice. That means rejoicing is a decision of the will, not a decision of the feel. Happiness and joy are not the same thing. Joy is something you will yourself to do because you understand that your circumstances are not the whole show. You understand that your circumstances are just a part of the show that's still going to end up in victory. You understand that it's a small piece of a puzzle that is being put together. And you can look outside of your prison and rejoice because even though you got thrown out of the game, even though you got benched or sidelined, even though something happened to you, you're still cheering. Why? Because you're looking out and you're seeing that the kingdom team is still winning the game. And so the player that's in the locker room that would rather be on the field is still shouting and yelling. Why? Because he still knows that even though he's not playing or she's not playing, we're still winning the game. So the joy comes from within, a decision of the will that I will rejoice in my circumstance. It's amazing how you slowly start coming out of a prison while you're still in it. Paul is doing this through the book of Philippians, through this one word, rejoice. You find the things to be thankful for and you give thanks to the Lord for those things and you live with joy even while in a prison. Paul didn't leave the prison just left him. Don't you know that you can be a prison but the prison not be in you? It's bigger than you. It's a decision of the will. And then what did Paul say? Philippians 1:19, here it goes. For I know that through your prayers and God's provision, he will deliver me. There it is. So first, I know it's bigger than me. So I'm not just thinking about myself. Two, it's a will. Happiness is dependent upon what's happening. Joy is not dependent upon what's happening. Joy, that's a decision of the will. I will rejoice, he says. But then he says, but I'll tell you why, since you really want to know. Because I know God will deliver me. That's hope. He goes from it's bigger than me to a decision of the will to what he knows about his victory. If you get those three things down, you can be in a prison, but the prison not be in you. If you get those three things down, you can be in a jail, but joy actually be in you. You know it's bigger than you. You make a decision of the will that you're going to rejoice and that your situation is not going to govern you. And then you go with what you know. I know I have victory. I know God will deliver me. I know this is not my final stop. This is just a bump in the road along the way to a victory and destination that's already been achieved. Once you live like that and you understand that, we can praise in a prison. We can have joy in a jail because of what you know, that it's bigger than me, that I control my joy that was given to me by Jesus Christ, and that he's already worked it out for my good because of what I know, that he will deliver me. You can rejoice. Let's get out that prison. Be steadfast, unmovable, always abound in the work of the Lord, and know that it will not go in vain. Like I said, rejoice. You can be in a prison. That doesn't mean the prison's in you. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Listen, rejoice, have joy. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment on how you were able to possess joy even though you were in a prison, even though you were in a hard time. We want to learn and grow from one another. Can't wait to see you next time. Let's go.